First graders, hello and how are you? I'm back with Old Mother West Wind, and I'm going to read chapter 5 and probably chapter 6 too today. They're not that long. So chapter 5 is called The Willful Little Breeze. So this is about one of the merry little breezes. To be willful means to sort of be stubborn. So have a strong will. Old Mother West Wind was tired and just a wee bit cross because she was tired. She had had a very busy day. Ever since early morning, she had been puffing out the white sails of the ships on the big ocean to make them go faster. She had kept all the big and little windmills whirling and whirling to pump water for thirsty folks and to grind corn for hungry folks. She had blown all the smoke from the tall chimneys and all the engines and steamboats too. Yes, indeed, Old Mother West Wind had been very, very busy. Now she was coming across the green meadow on her way home behind the purple hills, and as she came, she opened up the big bag she carried and called to her children, the merry little breezes, who had been playing hard on the green meadow all day long. One by one, they crept into the big bag, for they were tired too, and ready to go to their home behind the purple hills. Pretty soon, all were in the bag but one willful little breeze, who was not quite ready to go home. He wanted to play just a little longer. He danced ahead of Old Mother West Wind. He kissed the sleepy daisies. He shook the nodding buttercups. He set up all the little poplar leaves a dancing. And he just wouldn't come into the big bag. So Old Mother West Wind closed the big bag and slung it over her shoulder. Then she started on towards her home behind the purple hills. When she had gone, the willful little breeze left behind suddenly felt very lonely indeed. The sleepy daisies didn't want to play. The nodding buttercups were cross. Great, round, bright Mr. Sun, who had been shining and shining all day long, went to bed and put on his nightcap of golden clouds. Black shadows came creeping out into the green meadows. The willful little breeze began to wish that he was safe in Old Mother West Wind's big bag with all the other little merry breezes. So he started across the green meadow to find the purple hills. But all the hills were black now, and he couldn't tell which he should look behind to find his home in Old Mother West Wind and all the merry little breezes. How he wished that he had minded Old Mother West Wind. By and by, he curled up under a bayberry bush and tried to go to sleep, but he was lonely, oh so lonely, and he couldn't go to sleep. Old Mother Moon came up and flooded all the green meadows with light, but it wasn't like the bright light of a jolly round Mr. Sun, for it was cold and white and it made many black shadows. Pretty soon the willful little breeze heard Hooty the Owl out hunting for a meadow mouse for his dinner. And here he comes. There's Hooty Owl. You can see his talons are out because he's going to try and catch a mouse. He's got one. See the tail hanging? See the mouse hanging? Then down the lone little path which ran close to the bayberry bush trotted Reddy Fox. He was trotting very softly, and every minute or so he turned to look behind him to see if he was being followed. It was plain to see that Reddy Fox was bent on mischief. When he reached the bayberry bush, Reddy Fox sat down and barked twice. Hooty the Owl answered him at once and flew over to join him. They did not see the willful little breeze curled up under the bayberry bush. So intent were these two rogues in plotting mischief. They were planning to steal down across the green meadows to the edge of the brown pasture where Mr. Bob White and pretty Mrs. Bob White and a dozen little Bob Whites had their home. Bob Whites are birds. When they run along the ground, I'll catch them. And when they fly up in the air, you'll catch them, and we'll gobble them all up, said Reddy Fox to Hooty the Owl. Then he licked his chops and Hooty the Owl snapped his bill just as if they were tasting tender little bob whites that very minute. It made the willful little breeze shiver to see them. Pretty soon they started on towards the brown pasture. When they were out of sight, the willful little breeze jumped up and shook himself. Then away he sped across the green meadows to the brown pasture. And because he could go faster, and because he went a shorter way, he got there first. He had to hunt and hunt to find Mr. and Mrs. Bob White and all the little Bob Whites, but finally he did find them, all with their heads tucked under their wings, fast asleep. The willful little breeze shook Mr. Bob White very gently. In an instant he was awake. "Shh," said the willful little breeze. "Reddy Fox and Hooty the Owl are coming to the brown pasture to gobble you up, and Mrs. Bob White, and all the little Bob Whites." "Thank you, little breeze," said Mr. Bob White. "I think I shall move my family." Then he woke up Mrs. Bob White and all the little Bob Whites. With Mr. Bob White in the lead, away they all flew to the far side of the brown pasture, where they were soon safely hidden under a juniper tree. The willful little breeze saw them safely there, and when they were nicely hidden, hurried back to the place where the Bob Whites had been sleeping. Reddy Fox was stealing up through the grass very, very softly. Hooty the Owl was flying as silently down as a shadow. When Reddy Fox thought he was near enough, he drew himself together and made a quick spring and landed right in Mr. Bob White's empty bed. Reddy Fox and Hooty the Owl looked so surprised and foolish when they found that the Bob Whites were not there, that the little willful little breeze nearly laughed out loud then. Then Reddy Fox and Hooty the Owl hunted here and hunted there, all over the brown pasture, but they couldn't find the Bob Whites. And the willful little breeze went back to the juniper tree and curled himself up beside Mr. Bob White to sleep with his family, for he was no longer lonely. Okay, so that was chapter 5. All right, chapter 6 also involves Reddy Fox and is called Reddy Fox Goes Fishing. Reddy Fox seems to be a big troublemaker, huh? Chapter 6. One morning when Mr. Sun was very, very bright and it was very, very warm down on the green meadows, Reddy Fox came hopping and skipping down the lone little path that leads to the Laughing Brook. Hippity skip, skippity hop. Reddy felt very much pleased with himself that sunny morning. Pretty soon he saw Johnny Chuck sitting up very straight close by the little house where he lives. "Johnny Chuck, Chuck, Johnny Chuck, Chuck, Johnny Woodchuck," called Reddy Fox. Johnny Chuck pretended not to hear. His mother had told him not to play with Reddy Fox, for Reddy Fox was a bad boy. "Johnny Chuck, 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 Johnny Chuck, Chuck, Johnny Woodchuck," called Reddy again. This time Johnny turned and looked. He could see Reddy Fox turning somersaults and chasing his tail and rolling over and over in the little path. "Come on," said Reddy Fox, "let's go fishing." "Can't," said Johnny Chuck, because, his mother had already told him not to play with Reddy Fox. "I'll show you how to catch a fish," said Reddy Fox, and he tried to jump over his own shadow. "Can't," said good little Johnny Chuck again, and turned away so that he couldn't see Reddy Fox chasing butterflies and playing catch with the field mice children. And here's Reddy Fox and the little, let me try to get that better. And little Johnny Chuck. So Reddy Fox went down to the Laughing Brook all alone. The brook was laughing and singing on its way to join the big river. The sky was blue and the sun was bright. Reddy Fox jumped on the big rock in the middle of Laughing Brook and peeped over the side. What do you think he saw? Why, right down below him in a dear little pool were Mr. and Mrs. Trout and all the little trouts. Reddy Fox wanted some of those trouts to take home for his dinner, but he didn't know how to catch them. He lay flat down on the big rock and reached way down into the dear little pool, but all the little trouts laughed at Reddy Fox, and not one came within his reach. Then Mr. Trout swam up so quickly that Reddy Fox didn't see him coming, and he bit Reddy's little black paw hard. "Ouch!" said Reddy Fox, pulling his little black paw out of the water, and all the little trouts laughed at Reddy Fox. Just then along came Billy Mink. "Hello, Reddy Fox," said Billy Mink. "What are you doing there?" "I'm trying to catch fish," said Reddy Fox. "Pooh!" said Billy Mink. "That's easy. I'll show you how." Here's Billy Mink. He came prepared. He's got a fishing pole, some bait, it looks like, in his hand. So Billy Mink lay down on the big rock beside Reddy Fox and peeped over into the dear little pool where all the little trouts were laughing at Reddy Fox and having such a good time. But Billy Mink took care, such very great care, that Mr. Trout and Mrs. Trout should not see him peeping over into the dear little pool. When Billy Mink saw all those little trouts playing in the dear little pool, he laughed. "You can count 3, Reddy Fox," he said. "And when you count to 3, I'll show you how to catch a fish." "1," said Reddy Fox. 2, 3. Splash! Billy Mink had dived headfirst into the dear little pool. He spattered water way up onto Reddy Fox, and he frightened old Mr. Frog so that old Mr. Frog fell backwards right into the water off the lily pad where he was taking a morning nap. In a minute, Billy Mink climbed out on the other side of the dear little pool, and sure enough, he had caught one of the little trouts. "Give it to me," said Reddy Fox. "Catch one yourself," said Billy Mink. "Old Grandpa Mink wants a fish for his dinner, so I'm taking this one home." "You're afraid, Reddy Fox. Fraidy cat, fraidy cat." Billy Mink shook the water all off his little coat, picked up the little trout, and ran off home. Reddy Fox lay down again on the big rock and peeped into the dear little pool. Not a single trout could he see now. They were all hiding safely with Mr. and Mrs. Trout. Reddy Fox watched and watched. The sun was warm, the Laughing Brook was singing a lullaby, and what do you think? Why, Reddy Fox went fast asleep right on the edge of the great big rock. By and by, Reddy Fox began to dream. He dreamed that he had a nice little brown coat that was waterproof, just like the little brown coat that Billy Mink wore. Yes, and he dreamed that he had learned to swim and catch fish, just as Billy Mink did. He dreamed that the dear little pool was full of little trouts and that he was just going to catch one when, splash, Reddy Fox had rolled right off the big rock and into the dear little pool. The water went into the eyes of Reddy Fox, and it went up his nose, and he swallowed so much that he felt as if he never would want another drink of water. And his beautiful red coat, which old Mother Fox had told him to be very, very careful because he couldn't have another one for a whole new year. Oh, it was so wet. And his pants were wet, and his beautiful bushy tail, of which he was so proud, was full of water, and he couldn't hold it up. But instead, he had to drag it up on the bank after him as he crawled out of the dear little pool. "Ha, ha, ha, ha," laughed Mr. Kingfisher, who was sitting on a tree. "Ho, ho, ho," laughed old Mr. Frog, who had climbed back up onto his lily pad. "Hee, hee, hee, hee," laughed all the little trouts and Mr. and Mrs. Trout, swimming around and around in the dear little pool. "Ha, ha, ho, 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 hee, hee, hee," laughed Billy Mink, who had come back to the big rock just in time to see Reddy Fox tumble in. Reddy Fox didn't say a word. He was so embarrassed. He just crept up the lone little path to his home, dragging his tail, all wet and muddy behind him, and dripping water all the way. Johnny Chuck was still sitting by his door as his mother had told him to. Reddy Fox tried to go past without being seen, but Johnny Chuck's bright little eyes saw him. "Where are your fish, Reddy Fox?" cried Johnny Chuck. Reddy Fox had never said a word, but he walked on faster. "Why don't you turn somersault and jump over your shadow and chase butterflies and play with the little field mice, Reddy Fox?" called Johnny Chuck. But Reddy Fox just walked faster, And when he got almost home, he saw old Mother Fox sitting in the doorway with a great big switch across her lap. For Mother Fox had told Reddy Fox not to go near the Laughing Brook. And this is all I'm going to tell you about how Reddy Fox went fishing. And here he is running away from his mother because he doesn't want to get spanked. Okay, so those were 2 good chapters for you today. Hope you enjoyed. And I'll be back to read more soon. Hope you guys are doing okay. I miss seeing you. Post your comments if you want to on Seesaw, or do a little like so I know you're enjoying the story. If you are, I hope you are. Lots of good animal characters. I wonder who your favorites are. Has anybody drawn any pictures of them? Okay, first grade. Bye for now. Miss you. See you again soon.